Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is under the surface. And we're going to talk about change that sort of resides under the surface or starts under the surface. So we're not even conscious of what it is that's happening, but we're aware that something's changing. And this can be disorienting, and yet the change is a profound shift of being. So we get to address that this morning. Should be fun. But before we get started, let's take a couple minutes to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light flooding you and filling your cells, your electrons, your molecules, energizing, activating, and creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and vigorously rub those hands together. Feel all that sensation, that friction, the tension, the energy, the tingling and tickling, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Great to be here with you this morning, and great to be having everybody else joining us. Welcome. It's a new week, and we get to look at under the surface. So where this is coming from is, as you may know, I had a recent trip to Mexico, and what I've noticed since I've been back is that it's been a bit disorienting, and or I've felt a bit disoriented, and as I looked more deeply at what the underlying dynamic is, what I'm recognizing is that something's changed. You know, I can recognize that something's changed, and yet I'm not clear on exactly what it is, but something fundamental has shifted, and it's kind of percolating up from the inside out. And I wonder if you've had a similar experience where something's different and it's changing the color of everything. It's changing the light and the hues and the tints of things. It's changing the texture of life in some way or another. That perhaps it's an aspect of a sense that had been latent somehow that is now beginning to awaken, like a sleeping dragon that has been nudged into awakening slowly and stretching, perhaps. So there's this sense of when things are the same and yet they're changed. So I wonder if you've ever had that kind of experience where nothing's changed and everything is changed. So in other words, the the circumstances, the scenery is the same, and yet somehow who you are in the context of that scenery is different. And therefore, the whole experience is transformed somehow. And the thing that I'm finding so interesting about this experience is that I can't put my finger on it quite. I can't quite say, oh, well, this is what's different, or this is where it's headed, or this is the theme. What I'm more present to is feeling like things don't quite fit the way that they used to. That I want, the thought just came of a pebble in the shoe, but it's not like that. It's more like the shoes that used to be really familiar and comfortable somehow feel different. And as a result, the steps that are being taken feel different. And there's a different presence to them, a different experience, a different or a shifting context. And so we've talked about walking on shifting ground before. And this is sort of along the same lines, but it's an internal sense of shift and change that is not really quantifiable or qualifiable or interpretive at this moment. There's just a disquietude somehow, like I don't know if you ever experienced growing pains, literal growing pains. I know when I was growing up, I would get Charlie horses where muscles would lock and, from growing too quickly. And I have to massage those muscles out. And I'm wondering if you have any kind of similar experiences where something fundamental changes, and then it takes time for that change to percolate up into more conscious awareness, to be impacting all the deep underlying structures, to be able to find its way to the surface somehow. And I think maybe COVID might have had that kind of impact for us culturally, as I'm thinking about it, that there are many, many things that have shifted and changed on a fundamental level that I don't think we've yet recognized as a result of COVID, relating to relationships, work, values, priorities, the environment, nature, so many things, economies, so many things have changed, and we have yet to see the greater ramifications of these changes. And I just want to say, if you guys are writing comments and I'm not responding, it's because I don't see them. So if you want to be engaged in the conversation, which I invite you, please go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page or YouTube channel, and you can put your comments in there, and then I should see them and be able to respond to them. But let's go back to this idea of change. Rosalind says, does it feel like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic? Oh boy. Or does it feel like a different environment? That's an interesting question. Rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Yeah, it feels like a whole different ship, I guess, somehow for me right now. It feels like a total reorientation. And yet it's still out of the range of my awareness, so that I don't particularly know how to interpret it. So, yeah. I love that you said rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Yeah, I don't think that's, I think that it's like a whole different dimension. It's like being picked up from one place and put into another, and then, seeing that some things seem familiar and yet what's familiar is somehow different in its character. And I think that there are changes at work, like the whole COVID thing really, I think, has reoriented us in so many ways. Yes, so Rosalind says, so it doesn't have gradations, you can't improve it, it's simply emerging. Yeah, so that's the interesting thing. It's simply emerging. And it's not about, there may be gradations, but if there are, I'm not present to them yet. It's not about pushing the river, so to speak. It's just like there's something different that's emerging, and I don't yet have a handle on it. So and I think that parallels the changes that we are experiencing culturally through COVID, that there are things that are simply different. And it's not that we can improve it, because improvement sort of presumes a knowingness about what's good, bad, positive, negative, whatever. And I think that this is emergent. It's something unfamiliar. It's something new that is making itself manifest, making itself present. And so, yeah, interesting. Yesterday was the beginning of the Jewish New Year. So, Rosh Hashanah. And, that's an interesting parallel. I don't know, like, when there's a new year, we give ourselves a manufactured opportunity kind of to start over. And I think that there are changes that are taking place that we are all subject to, and I'm feeling them on a very deeply personal level, not related to COVID explicitly, but just for me, it was like a seed was planted when I went to Mexico, and I'm not sure the nature of that seed, but what seeds are pushing ground to send out roots and filaments, and then pushing ground to start emerging. And what this feels like for me at this moment is the filaments and the little roots going and pushing out somehow underground without my ability to actually tune in to see what exactly is going on there. But I kind of feel the disruption of the earth, so to speak. It's very, very, very interesting and disorienting. And I guess what I'm learning is to become more comfortable with the discomfort, with the unsettledness, with the disruption of this emergent change. To allow myself to be present to it. So when we feel uncomfortable, when things are unpredictable, when things are changing or feeling disorienting, the tendency is to try to find our footing, is to try and regain control, or the illusion of control, is to try to exert our will on our circumstances so that we can put it in a comfortable box of understanding or familiarity, right? That's the inclination. And I guess what I'm encouraging and I'm practicing for myself is to be aware of the discomfort, to be embracing it, to be appreciating it, to be present to it, to not resist it, to not try to override it, instead to ride it, to be in that place of disorientation, and notice, because when we allow ourselves to detach from the familiar, when we allow ourselves to be in this place of unknowing or detachment. Good morning, Gia. Good afternoon or evening to you, actually. It's great to have you here with us this morning. We're talking about under the surface, that change can emerge from under the surface without our conscious understanding or experience of what it is that's emergent. So well, good evening, Gia. So there's a grace that we get to embrace with change, and to allow ourselves, to afford ourselves the ability to presence ourselves to the discomfort, the disorientation, and recognize that means that something new is emerging, that something is changing, that things are at work that are beyond our control. I mean, control is really an illusion anyway, but this is kind of embracing our lack of control, maybe. So Rosalind says, as you start down the path, the way will appear, not knowing the destination. The know-how or GPS is not available, yet there is intelligence that is guiding the process. Exactly. Thank you for that, Rosalind. So there's a faith that guides this emergence. So at least for me, I've shared with you a bunch of times that for me, one of the guiding principles is life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. And so as this is happening, I could be bemoaning it. I could be mourning it. I could be fighting it. I could be struggling with it. I could be trying to control it, and rather than that, what I'm doing is observing and noticing, wow, this feels uncomfortable. This feels unfamiliar. This feels like something's happening and I don't know what it is, but I know something's happening. I know something's changed and something is changing. And I get to be patient and maybe even have some excited anticipation. Gia says, trust me, I needed to hear this now. I was feeling uncomfortable and fear in my body as it's been my pattern. It was like, God, where am I going with it? Where am I going with it now? Exactly, Gia. That, so we could be in a state of panic around, oh my gosh, there's all this discomfort, something's changing. I could be resisting it. I could be panicked. I could be frightened. And instead, let's exercise our opportunity to choose and just be observant, be aware something new is happening. There's a new dimension of self that is emergent, a new way of being, a new perspective, and let's engage with that. Let's allow that. It's the wonder of it rather than trying to squelch it or confine it. Let's just notice what's going on. What is different, what feels different, what new awareness is arising for us as we are feeling this discomfort. What's the nature of that discomfort? Where do we feel it? How is it manifesting? Because as we look more closely at the discomfort, it might give us clues about what's different. For me, what I'm noticing is that I don't feel like I fit in the same way that I fit before, like that things feel different. There's a sense of displacement of something for me right now, that a reshifting of scales somehow. So Gia says, how do you know what I want always through this platform? We are tuned in, Gia. I'm going to take it as a sign of healing from the universe. I mean, your topic and your thoughts on it now. I love it. That's great. So, I think that this is a very, very, very big time of change for all of us on all different levels. I think that humanity is changing and culture is changing. And I think COVID had a lot to do with it. And I think we're going to be seeing the ramifications of these changes for a long time. And and they resonate for us at all different levels. And, you know, people talked about going back to normal from COVID. Well, the normal that used to be normal doesn't exist anymore, and it never will. So we get to recalibrate, and this can happen on all different levels, culturally, personally, collectively. But I think that when we find ourselves growing our capacity to be with the discomfort of that emergent change with curiosity rather than fear, with open hand rather than grasping to try and control it, that our lives will be much richer. Our experience will be much richer. Our potential will be much richer. We will come into a greater expression of ourselves with greater grace. We can go kicking and screaming and resisting, or we can be going in the direction that the horse is going. We can be going in the direction of the change, even if it's uncomfortable. Like the first tendency when things are uncomfortable is to try and make it stop, right? Rather than trying to make it stop, how about if we just recognize, wow, there's some, I feel discomfort, I feel disoriented, and what else can I notice about that? Where do I feel that in my body? Where am I feeling it in my thoughts, in my emotions? What's different? What's changing? What is there for me to discover in this? What's new? Ralston says, does it need advanced preparedness at all? I think that our greatest preparedness is just presence. I don't think, other than saying, okay, there's change on the horizon, there's change bubbling up from inside, I feel this, how am I going to operate with it? How am I going to respond to it? Am I going to try and pretend it isn't there? Am I going to deny it? Am I going to struggle with it? Am I going to embrace it? Am I going to allow it to be something that is a process in which I'm consciously engaged? So I think we have all those choices. And, maybe the preparedness is to recognize that there's a discomfort. And just because something's discomforting or uncomfortable doesn't mean we need to make it comfortable. Maybe we can get comfortable with the discomfort. We can get familiar with the discomfort. We can learn to navigate that rather than try to mitigate it, to just be present to it. Be present to it, because it's a rich, rich, rich store. It's a rich resource to recognize that, of course, it's going to be uncomfortable for things to be changing, especially from such a deep space of presence, from the deepest sources within us, where there's this deep, deep, deep seed of change. It's going to disrupt everything on the way up, right? It's just how it's going to be. And so noticing that disruption, noticing how the structures are changing, That's probably the greatest grace we can give ourselves in this process of transformation. And to not take discomfort as something that needs to be stopped. You know, we can dance with it. We can dance with it and recognize that it's a gift. I remember in a Tony Robbins intensive, he used to say, if you're confused, it means you're about to learn something. And what that means is that the confusion is the disruption. You know, the confusion is the challenging of existing patterns. And so that's what the source of this discomfort is the challenging of these existing patterns. And so there's a gift in it. You know, maybe those patterns needed to be updated. So Rosalind says, I flow with what is coming into and out of my life. I am safe at every form of flow of my life. I am the creek, I am the river, I am the ocean. I am guided and protected. No matter what change occurs in my life, I am whole and safe and loved, leaving behind a former self. Rosalind, that you could publish that. That's just awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful affirmations. Yes, allowing ourselves to flow and being the river, the creek, the ocean, rather than the drop of water, right? We are the dynamic action of life. And Gia says, one thing that's changed with the time is I see myself being comfortable with the discomfort. Beautiful. And allowing it, not fighting with it. And as you said, I'm seeing it so closely and see changes in my own response to it now. Beautiful, beautiful, ladies. Just exactly when we can witness ourselves, presence ourselves and witness ourselves going through these processes, then we can revel in our transformation. We can witness our transformation while being transformed. So that's a profound gift. And I so appreciate your poetic and deeply insightful engagement today. Thank you for that so much. And thank you to all of you who are listening and participating and engaging in these questions for yourselves and maybe even sharing them with others. And we're all in this change, this time of change. And it's working on so many levels at so many depths. So to be addressing it together, to be holding ourselves up together through it is a very profound and important collective gift. So thank you. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I invite you to check out all the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living and EWN One with the Earth. And so much love to you too, Gia, and to all of us, all of you who are joining us, and Rosalind. And I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you and these opportunities to share this time together and explore what it is to be human, right? So until next time, so much love.